What if I told you that the heaviest burden you've ever carried wasn't placed on your shoulders by anyone else, but was silently growing inside you since the very first moment you felt something that didn't belong to you? Stay with me, because what Carl Jung discovered about hidden trauma will completely shatter everything you thought you understood about your own pain. Carl Jung said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And for empaths, this warning carries a devastating truth that almost no one is willing to talk about. You see, the world focuses on visible trauma, the obvious wounds, the dramatic betrayals. But Jung's research uncovered a far more insidious form of psychological damage, one that hides in plain sight, one that empaths carry every single day without ever realizing it's destroying them from the inside. Here's what nobody tells you about the trauma that lives beneath the surface. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll finally understand why you've been exhausted your entire life. According to Carl Jung, the human psyche has a limited capacity for what he called psychic absorption. Every person can only process a certain amount of emotional energy before the system becomes overwhelmed. But here's where empaths face a crisis that most people will never comprehend. They don't just process their own emotions. They process everyone else's too, every room they walk into, every conversation they have, every silent cry for help they detect behind someone's carefully constructed smile. All of it enters their psyche. All of it demands processing, and none of it gets acknowledged. Jung identified this as one of the most dangerous psychological conditions a person can experience, and the reason will absolutely shake you. Carl Jung discovered that trauma doesn't require a single catastrophic event. He called it cumulative psychic wounding, the slow and relentless accumulation of emotional weight that never gets released. For empaths, this process begins in childhood, long before they have the language to describe what's happening. They feel their mother's anxiety before she speaks. They absorb their father's grief without being told. They carry the emotional atmosphere of their entire household on nervous systems far too young to handle the load. But here's where it becomes truly heartbreaking. No one validates this experience. No one sees it. The empath child isn't physically harmed. They aren't overtly neglected. On the surface, everything looks fine, and so they learn the most destructive lesson an empath can internalize. They learn that their pain doesn't count. Listen carefully, because this is where Jung's research reveals something that will change how you see your entire history. According to Carl Jung's theory of the personal unconscious, every experience that isn't consciously processed gets stored below the threshold of awareness. It doesn't disappear. It accumulates, it festers, it shapes behavior, relationships, and self-perception from the shadows. For empaths, decades of unacknowledged emotional absorption create what Jung termed a shadow reservoir, a vast underground lake of unfelt, unspoken, unrecognized pain that influences everything they do. This is why empaths are chronically exhausted, and no amount of sleep fixes it. This is why they feel a sadness they can't explain, a heaviness that has no identifiable source. This is why they sometimes collapse emotionally for no apparent reason. The reason is hidden, but it's very real. They've been carrying weight that was never theirs to carry, and their psyche has been screaming for relief that never comes. But here's where Jung's discovery takes an even darker turn, and this is what most people completely miss. Carl Jung observed that when psychic energy has no outlet, it turns inward. He called this introversion of energy, and for empaths it manifests in the most devastating way imaginable. The pain they've absorbed from others, the emotions they've processed without recognition, the invisible labor they've performed since childhood, all of it converts into something toxic. Self-doubt, self-blame, a relentless inner voice that tells them they're too much and never enough simultaneously. Jung understood that this isn't a personality flaw, it's a psychological injury. The empath doesn't naturally hate themselves. They've been poisoned by years of carrying emotional material that was never metabolized. The trauma isn't what happened to them. The trauma is what they were never allowed to release. And here's the part that will send chills through your entire body. According to Carl Jung, there's a phenomenon he called somatic unconscious expression. When the psyche can no longer contain its burden, the body begins to speak. The unexplained chronic pain, the tension that lives permanently in the shoulders and jaw, the digestive issues that no doctor can fully explain, the immune system that seems to attack itself. Jung discovered that these aren't random physical complaints. They're the body's desperate attempt to discharge what the conscious mind refuses to acknowledge. The empath's hidden trauma doesn't just live in their thoughts. It lives in their cells, in their muscles, in the nervous system that has been running on high alert since before they could form their first sentence. And until this connection is recognized, no amount of therapy, meditation, or positive thinking will reach the root. But here's where everything begins to turn. And this is what Jung considered the most important discovery of his entire career. Carl Jung said that the wound is where the light enters. And for empaths, this statement is not poetry. It's a psychological roadmap. Jung discovered that the very mechanism that created the trauma, the empath's extraordinary capacity to feel, is also the mechanism that heals it, but only when it's turned inward. Only when the empath stops directing all that sensitivity outward and begins to feel their own pain with the same depth and compassion they've always given others. Jung called this the return of feeling to the self, and it is the single most transformative act an empath can perform. Not healing others, not absorbing the world, but sitting with their own buried grief and finally saying, "This matters too. My pain is real. What I carried was not nothing. What I survived deserves to be witnessed." According to Jung's process of individuation, this moment of self-recognition is where genuine healing begins. Not the performative healing that looks good on the surface, the deep tectonic shift that reorganizes the entire psyche from the ground up. The empath who finally turns their gift inward discovers something they were never told, that they deserved their own empathy all along, that the compassion they poured into everyone else was always meant to include themselves. And here's what makes this revelation absolutely unstoppable. Carl Jung discovered that when hidden trauma is finally brought into conscious awareness, it loses its power to control from the shadows. The exhaustion begins to lift. The unexplained sadness starts to dissolve. The body slowly releases what it has been holding for years, sometimes decades. The empath doesn't become less sensitive. They become accurately sensitive. They feel what is theirs and release what is not. They stop confusing other people's emergencies with their own obligations. Jung called this psychological differentiation, the ability to remain deeply connected to the world without being consumed by it. And it's the birthright of every empath who has ever wondered why they feel so tired, so heavy, so inexplicably broken in a life that looks perfectly fine from the outside. The hidden trauma most empaths carry in silence is not a single event. It's a lifetime of feeling everything and being seen by no one. But Jung's greatest insight was this: the moment you see yourself truly and completely, the silence breaks. And what rises from that silence is not more pain. It's the person you were always meant to become.